Hello everyone, glad to have you back. I highly recommend you to go and watch last month's video first. This is kind of a follow-up to that one, so watch it first and then come back to this. If you've already seen it or you just came back, take a look at this comment I got. This is pretty much the reason why I decided to make a follow-up to my last video. I honestly forgot the custom machines in GX since I rarely used them myself, but Guy Perfect here has a valid point, and that's what I want to focus on today. Maybe Deathwind 1 and Master with the Golden Fox isn't the hardest race in F-Zero. Maybe it's something entirely different. But before we get into custom machines, there's one small thing that I also want to mention that I forgot in my last video. The Silver Red. I'm kinda disappointed in myself for not mentioning it in my last video. I wouldn't call it the worst machine in the game, but probably the worst non-custom machine in GX. I spent a lot more time than I expected to try to beat Master difficulty with this machine. It's certainly possible, just very, very challenging. The main problem is its low top speed. It barely reaches 1000 km per hour on max speed. Combine that with a rather low body rating and below average handling and you get a real challenge. Give it a try if you haven't already, it's a fun challenge. There are some other really bad machines in the game, but none are as bad as the Silhouette in my opinion. Okay, now that I've talked about that, it's time for the main topic. Custom machines. I wasn't that big into custom machines before, but I spent a lot of time with them to get information for this video. First of all, let's see how many different machines we could make. If we only use parts available without using cheat codes, we have a total of 9,261 combinations. And that is already a lot. But if we add these exclusive parts, we have 5 extra parts in each category. That now means we have a total of 15,625 possible combinations. That is a lot of machines. Obviously, I didn't go through every single one because I don't have that much free time. But I still have some interesting ones for you. What I am looking for is the worst possible machine. One that may even make it impossible to beat part of the game. I'm sure there must be a few that make it impossible. At first, I tried thinking around with random combinations, but that really didn't get me anywhere. Most combinations were average, some better than others. I tried some of the less interesting stuff, like the lightest and the heaviest possible machines, which honestly performed a lot better than I expected. I then tried focusing on only one stat, which creates some very unbalanced machines, but none that really stand out as really bad, so I had to start my search somewhere else. And well, that place to start is the same I usually get my information for these videos. Old websites and forum posts. I found one that I found particularly interesting. This one thread from 8 years ago on game FAQs. There aren't a lot of machines mentioned here, but I still use them as a baseline. There are a total of 4 different machines mentioned, so here are all of them. First, we have the Quick Typhoon. It's a very light machine with low stats and a very low top speed. On max speed, it can't even reach 1000 km per hour, which is just unbelievably slow. It also slides around like crazy. It's not an easy machine to control, and even if you get used to it, the slow top speed and weak booster aren't helping at all. For my testing, I tried my best to beat at least one cup on Master, and I managed to beat the Ruby Cup with the Quick Typhoon. I'm sure I could beat the others too if I wanted to, but that doesn't really matter. Wait until you see the other machines in this video. I wouldn't call the Quick Typhoon the worst machine you could build. It isn't good. Not even close to, but given enough practice, one could use it kinda effectively. Next up, we have the Great Typhoon. I'm kinda confused with this one. The original post said it's slow, it loses speed when turning, and it turns like a brick. Must have found a different machine then, because this actually performs quite alright. I'd honestly feel comfortable trying to beat every cup of this machine, to be honest. Surely it isn't good, but acceptable. Yes, it takes some getting used to, but it clearly isn't as bad as the Quick Typhoon, or even the Silver Red in my opinion. The next machine is the Aerial Base set. This machine is basically a worse version of the Great Typhoon. It's also heavy, has a rather low top speed, and it also has worse handling than the last machine. It is still usable to a certain degree. There are some tracks that I wouldn't use the machine on, mostly ones with many tight turns, but other than that, it is fine. I still wouldn't recommend ever building this machine because there are just so many better combinations out there, but if you really want the challenge, try beating some of the cups using this one. I tried the Sapphire Cup and Big Blue and Mu City really were difficult, but possible, with enough practice of course. The last machine mentioned in that post is the Slash Emperor V2, and I saved this for last because it clearly is the worst machine out of the ones I mentioned so far. It doesn't only look like a brick, it performs like one as well. This machine simply doesn't want to turn at all. Even on the first track of the game, I had to spam side attacks to take the easiest corners since normal steering wouldn't allow me to do that. It gets a little bit better when you reach higher speeds, but that improvement is so tiny that it doesn't really matter anyway. Really the only track this machine is viable on is Split Over, mainly because the track has no turns. Maybe it would also be okay on Trident, but if I struggle to beat the Ruby Cup, I'm not even thinking of trying the Diamond Cup. Imagine the thing on Phantom Road. That would be a nightmare. Alright, so we have seen some real bad machines, but what if I told you I saved the best, or worst, for last? Changing just one part transformed the Slash Emperor V2 into the Air Emperor V2. Stat-wise, they look very similar. Both are very heavy, they share the same ratings for body, boost and grip, they have pretty much the same stat distribution for body, max speed, cornering and acceleration. The only real difference is the fact that the Air Emperor V2 is 20 kilograms heavier, and that may be the reason this performs even worse than the Slash Emperor V2. You see, the Slash Emperor V2 already doesn't like to take corners. This is somehow even worse. Even at high speeds, there is no chance of you taking any corners. Even when you spam side attacks, there really isn't anything you can do. You will end up in a guardrail whether you want it or not. If you want to see more gameplay of this exact machine, I recommend watching Custom R's video on this exact machine. Using the Air Emperor is just pure torture. I can maybe imagine beating a handful of tracks with this machine, but once you get to some of the harder ones, I highly doubt that this machine can perform well, even on the lower difficulties. This might as well be one of the worst machines you can build, but who knows. There are 15,000 other combinations out there, and going through all of them is gonna take a lot of time. Of the machines we have seen today, we can see that the machines that perform the worst are all heavy and have stats that look like this. But that doesn't apply to every single one, you see, it really depends on your choice of parts. Take a look at the Dread Sniper FX for example. The stats are pretty much the same as the Slash Emperor V2 and the Air Emperor V2, but this one just performs so much better, so stats alone aren't the only deciding factor. I'm sure there are some hidden stats that we can't see that have a bigger impact, but that's something that I simply do not know. And now it's time to ask all of you to help me in finding the worst possible machine. Maybe you know of a custom machine that performs as bad as the ones I've shown you today, maybe even worse. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you know of any bad machines, and I'll try to use them. I will try to find some bad ones myself, but together we can do a lot more than just one guy alone, so the more the better. I really want to find the worst machine possible. Maybe we've already found it, maybe it's still in those 15,000 possible combinations. It will take some time, but maybe we will be able to find the absolute worst. I want to make a follow-up to this video, so as I already said, if there are any machines you know, please let me know. I want to collect as many as possible for next month. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye.